The past couple of years have been pretty big for Khamzat Chimaev, the Russian-born Swedish fighter who has taken the UFC by storm. Propelled to number 11 in the rankings after winning his first 4 fights in the promotion to extend his unbeaten career, many people are considering Chimaev to be a future champion in the making. Stay with us, as today we're discussing his chances against the other top welterweights. First up, we're hearing from Khamzat's jiu-jitsu coach. Former UFC flyweight fighter and current jiu-jitsu coach Alan Nascimento has had his say on the Khamzat situation and has revealed that in all his years competing and coaching, he has never worked with someone so competitive. He even went on to tell the SureDog MMA website that when he has an upcoming fight, he will sleep at the gym just to make sure he has zero distractions. That's dedication, kids. Nascimento said he just doesn't want to lose time, so he moves into a room inside the academy during the whole camp. And in training, if he loses one round or gets swept by someone, he always asks me to do it again. And that's the most difficult part of my job with him. He came from a family where his father and brother were also wrestlers, so he always dealt with a lot of pressure. My job is to make him understand that in the evolving process in any martial art or combat sport, you may have to have a bad day in order to achieve your very best. And what has evolved into something of a rivalry recently, Nascimento also claimed that Chimaev doesn't like Colby Covington, and his recent trash talk wasn't just in the hopes of selling a fight. Hardly unsurprisingly, Chimaev's coach said he believes Khamzat would kill Covington. We're not sure about this, as Covington has proven he's an elite fighter and has pushed Kamaru Usman hard in both of their previous fights. What else did Nascimento have to say then? Let's see. When discussing potential matchups for his fighter, the coach claimed one of the toughest fights out there for Chimaev would be Gilbert Durinho Burns. Nascimento said the Brazilian, with the least Brazilian-sounding name ever, is the complete fighter, referencing his wrestling ability as well as his amazing jiu-jitsu. He claimed it would be the worst matchup for his fighter, except for Usman himself, who he will inevitably fight at some point should the pair keep up their respective win streaks. Nascimento thinks that when Chimaev and Usman eventually meet, the odds would be in favor of the Swede, something we're unsure of due to Usman's sheer dominance of the division. He referenced the fact that after the next 2 or 3 fights, Chimaev will be 28 or 29, while the champ will be on the wrong side of his mid-30s, and if he doesn't keep up his motivation and conditioning, Chimaev would have the advantage. You only have to look at people like George St. Pierre, or to a lesser extent Dan Henderson, to know that these guys are easily capable of fighting at a high level deep into their 30s, and champions do not give up their belts easily. Who do you think's the toughest fight for Chimaev in the welterweight division? Do you see him eventually dethroning Usman for the title? Let us know below. We're hearing from someone who doesn't exactly agree with Khamzat's coach next. Stay where you are. Former UFC fighter Josh Thompson has also spoken out about Chimaev's chances should he come up against the division's elite, and surprise, surprise, it's not all as rosy as the Swede's coach has made it out to be. Speaking on his podcast Weighing In, after Chimaev's recent win at UFC 267, Thompson poured scorn on the idea that Khamzat would have it all his own way should he ever step in the cage with Usman or Covington. He said, "I think no matter what, he has a hard time with Colby Covington and Kamaru Usman. I think Covington may just press the pace because I haven't seen Khamzat for more than 3 rounds, so I don't know how he'll do in a 5-round fight. And this is the problem. We literally don't know how much gas he has in his tank, as he has never been pushed into those latter rounds, nor has he done a 5-round fight as of yet. We know for a fact Colby and Usman can both go the distance and also perform to an exceptionally high level in the championship rounds." In a complete opposite opinion of that of Chimaev's coach Nascimento, Thompson said he does see him coming out on top against Burns, and his podcast partner, former UFC ref Big John McCarthy, cited his height and length as something which would cause problems for the Brazilian. He said Burns couldn't just expect to ragdoll him to the floor and would have to put it on him first. We shall see. So who should he fight next? As we've mentioned, Chimaev is yet to break into the top 10 in the welterweight division, so thoughts of a title fight or even one of the top 3 guys are somewhat premature. Chimaev looked impressive in his last outing against Li Jingliang, so we know he belongs in and around the ranked fighters, but who exactly should he be matched up against next? As has previously been mentioned, the Gilbert Burns fight looks like it might be on the cards, potentially for UFC 273 in April, but nothing official has been announced yet. Another potential matchup is with Bilal Muhammad, who was most recently out last month against Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, scoring a unanimous decision win. The fight wasn't the most exciting, with Muhammad using his superior grappling to dominate Thompson on the floor, something which he would struggle to do against Chimaev, given the Swede's impressive wrestling ability. Then there's also Vicente Luque, who finds himself at number 4 following an impressive run of 4 successive wins. Any of these guys would be good for Chimaev, and it would be a case of getting past whoever the UFC feeds him next, and then talking about a top 3 fighter. Do you see him beating these guys we've mentioned? Who do you think would be his toughest matchup? Let us know below. Alexander Gustafsson has been speaking about his fellow Swede next. Stay with us. Light heavyweight contender Alexander Gustafsson has had his say on the potential of Chimaev fighting for the world title, and yes, you guessed it, he sees his countryman coming out on top. Many people have predicted 2022 will be a big year for Khamzat, and Gus is no different. He said, "I think he'd put Kamaru Usman to sleep, honestly. I think if he just touches his chin, it's a big chance that Kamaru Usman goes to sleep. I like Kamaru, he's a great champ, and he's just been breaking records, and it's a pleasure to see him fight because he's very good, technical. I love his jab and his wrestling, and you can see that he's on top, Kamaru Usman, but I just can't see him taking Khamzat's punches. I mean, when is Usman going to get the credit his dominance deserves? You would expect something like this to come from a fan, but from a fellow fighter?" Gustafsson went on to describe how Chimaev's striking is explosive, and that he boxes very fast, combining speed, power, and precision. Obviously, he is going to talk up his friend and fellow training partner, but we also know that Usman has knockout power in abundance, just as Jorge Masvidal, who was flatlined with the champ in their rematch in April of last year, and Colby Covington. Gustafsson believes that the welterweight title would only be the beginning for his mate, and even went on to claim that he has potential in the same neighborhood as GSP and Khabib. Come on now, Gus. He's only fought 4 times in the UFC. News of Chimaev in an altercation with security at a fight in his native Sweden now. Last weekend, Chimaev was in attendance at a local event in Sweden where he was involved in an altercation with security. The UFC welterweight was sitting cage side when the fight, featuring one of his teammates, was called off by the referee. Khamzat, in a scene reminiscent of Khabib against Conor, quickly scaled the security rail and headed for the cage to protest the decision, but not before security intervened, sparking a small scuffle between the two parties. Khamzat ultimately realized he was in the wrong and returned to his seat before anything nasty actually went down. We wouldn't have particularly liked to be in the position of the security guards either, with one of the UFC's scariest prospects coming towards you to pick a fight, and with no referee to stop it getting out of control either. Khamzat should really know better though, and someone in his position should really be setting an example for the other fighters in his gym who look up to him and not using his UFC status to try and intimidate people in lesser promotions. As always, thanks for tuning in today, and remember to swing by next time for some more knockout news. Also, why not do us a solid by sharing this video on your socials? You'd really be helping us out. Bye guys.